Well, hello there, Universal Minds. We're exploring visual intuition today. And so, wow, the power of images. Images are the language of the subconscious mind. And so, everything that surfaces up to the conscious mind, all of our habits are going to be programmed through the subconscious mind through the feeding of images to the subconscious mind and the images that we hold in the back of our mind. And a way to illustrate this is light and sound. So images as opposed to sound or words, symbols can be looked at in such a way that, well, one looks at the speed of sound, how quickly the sound waves of energetic frequency travel, and so 761 miles per hour. Okay, wow, that's super quick. Light traveling at 186,000 miles per second is just exponentially way. How many octaves higher of speed? I'm not sure. However, I do know that this is why what we do and what we see is so much more important than what we say and what we hear. And so let's keep that in mind here. Now, intention is the driving factor behind just about the consequence of everything that occurs in an everyday reality and events and circumstance. And so what intentions we hold will determine the outcomes of situations. And so a way to align intention with who we are and find our true intentions that are true to ourselves and come from the heart space is through the images that we hold, because intention is is imprinted through images. So the images that we are bringing up to mind to ourselves, that we are imagining, that we may be even not conscious of, that are sitting in the back of our mind, these are going to be, for a way of saying, the horse which pulls our carriage of experience. And so practices. And so to first become in tune and much more ready to develop further our visual intuition, we want to first invite it and become completely open to the idea and to the practice and development of it. And so visual intuition will arise just as emotional intuition does in two situations, although with also a third one. And the third one is really probably the I'd say the more resourceful source of visual intuition. And so the first two, let's go over the first two, which is an object of attention. This is where we think of a topic or we think of something. For example, I think health, just the subject health, or I think the subject equilibrium, or I think the subject love, or I think the subject fear. And we will notice what images arise naturally in consequence to us bringing these topics up to mind. And also I want to mention that whenever we are practicing our visual intuition, and by practicing I mean willful visual intuition, because we'll get to the spontaneous visual intuition, which we can't really will and just comes. And so when we will the visual intuition, we're going to want to be in a relaxed state. So we're going to possibly breathe deep and slow from our stomach, hold and relax, and then breathe out, hold and relax. And we're going to want to be in darkness favorably and with our eyes closed and in that relaxed state. And the best times is in the morning or at night before going to bed. These are the best times to connect to a visually intuitive state. And so in this state, we can bring up a topic to our mind. It can also be a decision. It just doesn't have to be health or fear or anything. It can also just be one image. It can be an image of anything and see the images that arise. But the idea here is to allow the inner eye, visualization, the imagination, the imagination, to produce its and allow to stream its own images without us controlling it. And this might take some practice to really get the feel of when we are producing information as opposed to when information is being produced from arising from something naturally. And so depending on the images that arise, we can then receive information through that, depending on what the images mean to us. So different images will mean different things to each person. So it's a very, very personal thing. Intuition is a very personal thing, and nobody can tell you what your intuition means. And so also a interesting thing to think about here is that the right hemisphere of the brain, as opposed to the left hemisphere, is responsible for visually spatial information as well as emotions. Both of these are linked at the right hemisphere as opposed to the left hemisphere, which is responsible for language and words and also time. Whereas the right hemisphere is linked to a lost sense of time. So this is where we are so absorbed in the present moment that time is just elastic, it's slow, it's fast, whatever, we're not paying attention to it. And this is significant because intuition seems to be anchored in the present moment. And so, as well as emotions are a direct outcome of the present moment. And so visual information, visual intuition will have emotional significance, and so we can actually kind of bind these two and use them both, bridge them both, and utilize that to really understand what it is that we're receiving as information. And so the second situation in which visual information arises is by whatever we're doing in the present moment. So whatever we're doing in the present moment, whatever activity it may be, that will always also contain and harbor an image in the back of our mind, whether we're aware of it or not. And so this is why it's important to always, just throughout our day, whatever we're doing, look within and see, what am I feeling? What am I imagining right now in my mind? And this will really bring about great insights to what different activities, what our intention is behind them. And possibly then we can align our intentions with the activities and know that we're doing it for the right reasons. Okay, so I'm gonna also mention this practice just because It's very useful. It also is very relaxing. It also is very grounding and centering. So it's this Clementine thing I sometimes do, in which I just close my eyes. We close our eyes and we visualize, because visualization is key here. We want to exercise our visualization. We visualize then a clementine in our hand, or an orange, or whatever. I like to imagine citrus fruits. And we're going to peel it. Imagine ourselves, visualize ourselves peeling it. We can also visualize and use our sense of smell. We can smell it. We're going to peel it and visualize ourselves eating it. We can really feel also the taste, see what it would taste like. We can also juggle it. This is fun, and it really over time becomes very concrete. Okay, so this is the last very and probably most useful thing that visual intuition will bring us, which is visions and just spontaneous metaphors spoken in the language of images. So it'll be also, could be, most likely will be precognitive and give information about the future. And so again, we have to be open to this and be ready to receive it, which is just being open and inviting to the idea of receiving spontaneous visions. And these, again, will happen more than likely than any other time in the dark. We'll notice that it occurs more than any time when our mind is quiet, most likely when we're about to go to sleep, drifting off in that in-between state, or in the middle of the night, waking up from a dream or anything and laying in our bed about to go to sleep. These are the times in which probably 80% of all visions and precognitive information will come to us. And usually it's either one of two things. Usually it's a vision of literally what it is that it is presenting, or it is a metaphor. So by metaphor, I mean it's something symbolic. So for example, a person who is in a dark cave, and they're walking in a tunnel, and all they're being led by is, ahead of them there's a phoenix with a lantern in its claws, held by its claws, and the phoenix is flying, and the claws is holding a lantern, and the flame inside the lantern is actually a heart that is actually in flames, and it's illuminating everything. This is an example of just a very symbolic image which has deep meaning, and each image will be very personal to each and every person, and your images will be unique to you. And so we want to just be ready to receive these images. Last thing I want to mention is reading. Reading, as opposed to television and just video, is a great way to strengthen the inner eye, because, well, it's self-explanatory. Reading, we ascribe the images to the words that we're reading ourselves, and this really is just a good thing to do, just reading in general. And so, yes, images, so powerful, and let's play with them.